Good to see you again. So tell us what's going on. You're with ASIS. You're appearing today for ASIS, and tell us what's going on.
Well, there are a lot of things happening today. Of course, we've got all the great education centers sessions.
Right.
This afternoon, I've got a session. It's a 3-hour problem-based practical exercise on ESRM.
That's so important.
Yeah, 4203 and 4204.
Now, for the soccer moms in my neighborhood, tell them what ESRM means.
Well, that's Enterprise Security Risk Management, and just put it, in layman's terms, it's about showing the value for security. It's about eliminating silos in organizations and understanding that all risk in an organization is shared, whether it's environmental health and safety risk or security risk. We all have risk we have to deal with.
So why do you think it's always been put in a vertical? Oh, security, that's nothing to do with us. We're distribution, we're the janitor service. Risk doesn't involve us. Why do you think people think that way? And I'm glad we're coming back with this concept, right? But why does that happen? It's weird.
Well, it was an evolution that security is always a reflection of business,
right?
And a reflection of government. Post World War II, we were very siloed as organizations. Everybody had their area of responsibility. Then we started getting into things like, Edward W. Edwards Deming's studies on process and process logic. And it's finally making its way into our industry.
Taking that long, interesting.
Yeah, we're finding that now we're actually talking about the business of security and the value of security to the business and how security shows value. And that's an issue a lot of my colleagues have, is their inability to show value or not have the tools to communicate value properly to their peers.
Difficult in the quote physical security world, by the way. If you don't know this, the physical people, you're already in cyber, but you don't know it.
Right.
But, the cyber guys, right, they just push a button and they get some analytics, and I've had 1 billion hits on my internet, and people are attacking my network, and look what I did.
Right.
Oh, instant value, right? But how do you know in physical security, this is the challenge, right? It's a rhetorical question. How do you know how to quantify that, right?
Well,
that value. And we're getting there, and I remember when I was at Fox, I did a calculation on how many calls for service we had, right?
Mm-hmm.
240,000 calls for service a year. And when I did the analysis, 90% of what we did was open doors because people forgot their keys.
Right.
And every time I did that, it cost $125. And so the CEO said, guess what? If you forget your keys, you get locked out of your office.
There you go.
And then we had cost savings, and we had more value, right?
Absolutely.
So what are some of the analytics that people are using now in physical security to show that value to the C-level?
Interesting that you say that. We're involved in very heavily in risk, threat, and vulnerability assessment. We've actually reduced risk, threat, and vulnerability assessment to 18 data points.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
That can be tracked and monitored and managed. But as we dig deeper into the cyber world and as physical security devices become more and more cyber related, which they are today, and we get higher levels of integration, then the data that they produce is actually data that can be used to show value for the function. One of the things that we're looking at, we have issues with cybersecurity. Well, physical security actually can play a role in assisting the cybersecurity folks. So how do we do that? Well, you have an access control system for a computer. You don't get into your computer unless you provide a credential. Well, you also have an access control system that manages building entrance. What if we were to meld those two systems? Just something as simple as that,
right,
as putting those two systems together. Well, from a process logic standpoint, then what you have is redundancy. If you try to log into the computer, but you haven't logged into the building, that's a flag.
That's right.
It's an automatic flag, and vice versa. If you try to log into the building, but you haven't logged into your computer, that's a flag back the other direction.
Yeah, it's very simple.
So it's, when we can start looking at data from that perspective and the data that is produced by physical security systems already, and learn some of the lessons that our cyber brethren have already dealt with, then, there's a lot of things that we can do to improve and show value for the security function.
Now, do you still think there's a little bit of a rift, a separation, a silo between the physical and the cyber guys? It's getting better.
Right.
But if the physical guy goes up to cyber and says, can you get me this, are we still getting a little bit, well, that's kind of our data and it's our thing, and That's not physical security's business. Are we still seeing that a little bit in the business?
I think we're seeing it, but it's a matter of education. We all use devices.
Everybody.
We use phones, we use pads, we use tablets, we use computers. We don't provision those computers in our companies. We don't put the software on them. We don't handle the virus control mechanisms. Those are all handled by an IT person. So if we were to work with our information technology brethren and identify for them what we need from the systems, let them provision it. Let them take care of the system as they do any other IT device on the network, but let's let them know the data that we need to capture. But for a lot of my colleagues, you've got to know how to ask the question first. And that's kind of where we're at. You don't know what you don't know. So, part of this is helping folks to get educated in how to ask the question and knowing what to ask for.
Very interesting. What is the number one thing you see pop up in doing some of these surveys? What is the client worried about, and what actually appears as what they need to worry about?
Well, instead of talking about that, what I'd like to do is make it even simpler. A lot of companies want to do great things. They want to protect assets. They want to protect supply chain. But as you know, when we start talking about solving problems, the first step of solving a problem is what?
Identifying it.
Identifying the
problem.
Define it.
You got to call it what it is, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I find is a lot of people don't give value to the risk assessment that they should. We go into a lot of companies, we talk about this. If you look at ISO 31000, if you look at the ANSI ASIS RIM standard on risk assessment, the first thing we have to do to enter into the risk management process is identify the problems.
Got to define it. Our clients defining it differently than you're defining it. Maybe that's the
right.
Yeah.
And
okay.
And then you've got things like different areas of operation. You've got food and agriculture is very different from chemical production.
Right.
So you've got those little individual nuances with each sector that you work with, but primarily it's getting people to understand that risk assessment can be an analytical tool. It's not just a one and done, a 2-hour study of 200 pages with a 5-page executive summary and 20 pages of mitigation.
Better be 1 page for me.
Yeah, that go into a drawer.
That's what happens. Yeah,
it's
still happening, but we're getting better, right?
We're trying to make it better.
Yeah. Very interesting. What keeps you awake at night? What do you worry about the most?
What do I keep awake at night? Well, it's funny. It's not something that keeps me awake personally. The amount of phishing messages, the amount of cyber intrusion that's occurring that people are not aware of.
Billions a day.
The things that come into email, we've got to do a better job of helping people to understand what to look for because it's costing us millions.
Oh, billions. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, an example from my own household, my mom, 86 years old, is on a computer. And she got caught up in the Microsoft Windows scam.
Oh yeah.
They go, hi, this is this is technical support, and you've got a virus.
Right.
And two money orders and $1,000 later.
Oh no.
And I'm like, Mom, what's going on? And of course we helped her with it. We stopped it, but it was believable. And that's what these folks are doing, and they're taking advantage of our seniors. They're taking advantage of our youth. They're taking advantage of people. I got something the other day, and it was from U.S. Bank, and my God, it looked authentic.
Yeah, they look really good now.
I had to really stop and look at the email address and identify that the email address itself was malformed, and so I knew automatically that it was a phishing document.
When I get that feeling myself, I don't even go that far anymore. I just delete it. And if it's that important, they're going to call me.
Absolutely.
Jeff Slotnick, ASIS. Now, what council are you on?
I am a senior regional vice president for the Western United States.
Pardon me.
No,
Sorry.
that's quite all right. But I'm also participate on the Physical Security Council. I was the chairman of the council several years ago, and I'm still very active on the Physical Security Council.
And when's your lecture?
This afternoon. We have the 3-hour tabletop exercise. Starts at 2 and runs till 5.
Excellent. Make sure you guys check that out at ASI's 2017, Dallas, Texas. We'll be back with another review in just a couple of minutes. Thanks. Thanks, Jeff.
Awesome.
Very good, buddy. Excellent.
Awesome.
Very good, buddy. Excellent.
Awesome.
Very good, buddy. Excellent.
Awesome.
Very good, buddy. Excellent.